Hello everyone and welcome to the first council meeting of the year, the February council meeting. I'm Mayor Ben Blaine. Thank you for coming this evening. If everyone could please stand for the opening prayer. Almighty God, grant to this council wisdom, understanding and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of this city. Amen. And also the original custodian statement. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land in which we stand and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. Please be seated. We'll now move on to item 2, apologies, and I think everyone's here this evening. Move on to item 3, confirmation of minutes. Can we have a mover that the minutes of the scheduled council meeting held on the 2nd of December 2024 be confirmed? Councillor Arnott. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jalley. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 4, declaration by councillors and officers of any conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts this evening? No. Thank you. We will now move on to item 5. It has been a big January and a big Christmas for Warrnambool. We've seen a heap of visitors across the city, and Premier had a really good weekend over Australia Day weekend with the Classic. It was great to see so many out and about and everyone who was all around. And well, with the hot few days that we've been having, it's been great to see everyone down enjoying our beach and enjoying our pools as well. It's been a really good summer it's been a really good summer for the city. So yeah, it's been great. We'll now move on to item 6, public question time. Mr. Mason, are there any questions?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, we have had 3 questions lodged today. So the written copy of the questions have been lodged with councillors. I do know that Ms. Tammy Good is in the gallery, and she would like to ask her question.
All right. Tammy, would you like to come up to the microphone?
Sure. Welcome to the new councillors too. Warrnambool Foreshore Strategic Framework Plan prepared by consultants is heavily compromised by the wishes of DECA and to a lesser extent Eastern Maar. The majority of residents and ratepayers attending forums were vocal in supporting the following: the surf club redevelopment, much safer and wider grassy corridors between Viaduct Road and the promenade, more parking near all beaches and the breakwater, and more sea views. My question is, who pays for the strategic plan, and more importantly, its implementation, when it doesn't adequately address safety, business, tourism and transport concerns? Is it DECA or Eastern Maar or Warrnambool ratepayers?
Thank you, Tammy. Mr. Mason?
Yeah, thanks, and I'd like to thank Tammy for her question. The Warrnambool Foreshore is Crown land that council manages, so that means it is state government land. It's not council-owned land. As such, the state government have significant influence on what happens on the foreshore. Given we're managing it on their behalf, they have significant influence. The foreshore plan has sought to improve the function and management of the foreshore, but we acknowledge that this has been done within the constraints of state government policy and advice. Implementation of the foreshore plan will need significant investment from state and federal government, but that will also require some level of council funding. And I think given kind of the value that the Warrnambool community obviously places on the foreshore, I think that would be something that the community would reasonably expect. So that's my answer to that question.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. And I think it is important that it's not just going to be ratepayers who will be, if this plan is voted through and goes ahead tonight, it will not just be ratepayers who will be paying for this. It comes from a range of different levels of government and different organisations to be able to deliver what is possibly in the plan. Mr. Mason, next question.
The next question is from Andy Finlay. It relates to the foreshore management plan as well. The question is, why has the foreshore plan paid no attention to the essential task of hazard reduction of the highly combustible tea tree within Wern Bay, given the area has been designated an extreme fire zone? So the response to that is the foreshore plan is a strategic vision for the future of the foreshore and includes the stage removal and replanting of vegetation along the promenade. So specifically, it does call out the need to remove coastal wattle and coastal tea tree. But that has to be done in a staged manner so we can get DECA approval. The plan does not review or assess current operations or risks around aspects of the foreshore. However, a recommendation of the plan is for Council to develop a coastal and marine management plan that will include further information around vegetation management. This is a more detailed piece of work, and when funded, will look more closely at current vegetation on the foreshore.
And I think that's probably the key thing to look at what that strategy is. It isn't just one part, as in just the vegetation. It takes in a wide range of aspects of what actually is the entire foreshore. And, you know, it is very acute, the vegetation in there and what can be done. Sorry, last question, Mr Mason.
So the last question is from Alison Bonges, also relating to the foreshore. Alison's put in quite a number of different questions, so I'll paraphrase some of them. Firstly, she's looking to understand who would be responsible, held responsible in the event of a fire, whether that would be the council or DECA. And then she is asked some specific questions about who is currently charged with enacting the 1 metre fire break and who is currently charged with approaching DECA regarding extending the break between properties and growth to 4 metres. So it's not possible to respond to a hypothetical question about responsibility for a fire on the foreshore. What I can say is that foreshore is Crown land, is owned by the state government, and council manages the land on its behalf. Removal of vegetation from the foreshore must be done within state government approvals, and this is guided by state government policy that places a strong emphasis on retention and protection of native vegetation. In relation to the specific issues, council has recently cleared or reinstated the 1 metre fire break along the private properties. I understand that this work has been completed. And secondly, council officers are currently seeking or putting together the approval required from the state government or DECA to extend the break to 3 to 4 metres. And council will take responsibility for seeking the approval from DECA and then undertaking the work, and that work has already started. We are keen to see that done.
Thank you, Mr Mason, and thank you, Alison, for that question. We'll now move on to item 7, the reports, and we'll move on to item 7.1, the Warrnambool Foreshore Strategic Framework Plan. Mr Mason.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The Warrnambool foreshore area is incredibly important to Warrnambool, and you probably only need to have been down there on the weekend to recognise that. The foreshore, as I've noted in my questions before, is Crown land, so it's not council-owned land. It's Crown land that is managed on behalf of the state government by council. Development of the foreshore framework plan is necessary to present a vision for the future and provide direction on this important piece of land. The plan is big picture and aspirational. Implementation will require financial support from other layers of government. Development of the plan has been through a long and complex process with community consultation demonstrating the passion and interest in the foreshore and the sometimes competing views on how and what should happen on the foreshore. Our approach has been to get a plan that addresses the key issues, but is also realistic about what the state government, and in particular DECA, will allow us to do and ultimately implement. We don't want a plan that will sit on the shelf because we can't implement it. There is a 3-part recommendation before council, and that is broken in effectively into 2 components. The first is adoption of the strategic framework plan, and the recommendations 2 and 3 are effectively geared towards starting the process to do a planning scheme amendment to recognise the plan in the planning scheme. Clearly, once we go through that planning scheme amendment process, there will have to be further reports that come back to council before that is finalised. So the recommendation is before you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mason. We have any questions on this item before we seek a mover? Do we have a mover? Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Mayor Blaine. I would like to move the officer's recommendation, please.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jelly. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Mayor. The Warrnambool Foreshore Strategic Framework Plan, it's a really important piece of work for Warrnambool, and it's effectively, in years to come, it's going to reimagine Warrnambool's much-loved foreshore. Realm Studios were appointed in September 2023, and they prepared this plan, and consultation has occurred with DECA, Gorkappa, Eastern Mar, commercial operators such as the Pavilion and Surf Schools, Deep Blue Hot Springs, sporting clubs such as the Yacht Club and Fishing Club, the Coast Guard, the horse training industry, and the Surf Club, and the broader community. So I think there has been significant consultation carried out. And we make note there that it is Crown land, as our CEO has said, managed by council. There has been significant feedback to the council with some very valid concerns, and I think number one that has been really obvious is the vegetation management, and I think we'd all be in agreement that this needs to happen. I'm sure everyone would like to have the ocean views reinstated at McGinnon's car park and the vegetation cut back along the boardwalk to provide a safer experience. Unfortunately, it's just not that simple though. And I'm also sure that the residents along the foreshore would like to have some vegetation cleared and reduce the fire hazard. Once again, sounds like a very simple thing to do, but it's just not. I also see the need to support a new surf lifesaving club and have it integrated into a village green. But along the same token, I'm also aware that we need to protect the carnival that has been an attraction at the foreshore for many years. Now, to achieve any of these goals, we need to have a planning framework for the Warrnambool foreshore. We need to have a vision for the precinct. We must work within the legislated boundaries and with the governing bodies to have any chance of succeeding. So going forward, there will need to be much more detailed planning and further community consultation. Then all of this, the vision, is going to be dependent on funding on many levels. This is a long-term project. We're looking at 2040 and possibly beyond. But I feel we need to get the wheels turning to commence this, and that's why I'm happy to support this strategic plan. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Councillor Jelly.
Thank you, and reiterate a lot of what Councillor Arnott has said. This has been a big piece of work for the staff here at Council. There's been much discussion and then rediscussion with community and user groups over the months. There are some proposed parts of the plan that I personally don't agree with, and some that I think have not been fully addressed. Our foreshore is an integral part of what should be our showcase. We want our locals to enjoy the ocean and foreshore, and we want to encourage the visitors to come and stay and experience what we have to offer. So we need to look after this area. It's very important. I think there's quite a few things that can come, but they will be overcome as the process of putting this plan forward moves along. I think we should be providing more amenities for locals and visitors alike, easy parking, more toilets, drinking fountains, showers after they've been at the beach. I do have a query about the proposed raised platform boardwalk. I think it will have issues with beach and disability access and cost and funding in time to come. So that's something that will have to be looked at in time to come. The Surf Club renewal is extremely important and an integral part of this plan. I'm pleased it's now included. Initially it really wasn't, but there is more work to be done to get a new club building and amenities. It's not fit for purpose anymore, and we all rely on that service of the volunteers that provide the Surf Lifesaving Club. The scrubland between Lady Bay and the pavilion should have been identified more in this plan for pest reduction, fire management, and I personally feel there could carefully appointed additional parking in the middle scrub area at Worm Bay. It's become a very popular area there and very more accessible for people, families and older people to get to the beach. As we've said, vegetation issues are a part of this. We must stick to the rules with it, and so I fully endorse what the CEO has said, that we are already taking appropriate steps to speak with DECA and have inappropriate vegetation cut back, and there are fire and safety risks with this. I still actually think the wording of the village green, as noted, near the pedestrian lights on Patoba Road, is ill-named. Don't we have a civic green across the road here that it's been since I was a child? It was always the civic green. Why would we have a village green? I still think that could be renamed. I know it's not a biggie, but I just don't think it fits in to who we are. So as much as I have issues with parts of this plan, I will support it in essence, as we need to be able to move forward with starting parts of it. By having this plan, it will give more weight when applying to DECA for action issues like the vegetation and things like that. I would predict some things in this plan will never eventuate because we will need money, and we will go through further consultation when each little project comes up, but we'll need funding from state and federal government. So I will support it, but I still do have some questions, but we need to move forward with it so we can action parts of it.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly.
Thank you.
Councillor Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor. Just want to call out the community consultation has been fantastic on this. It's great to see a wide range of the community leaning into these opportunities to provide feedback to council. It's incredibly important that people's voices are heard. So I want to thank everyone who did lean in and respond and be involved in the consultation. It's the only way that we get to hear what people are saying. Echoing a little bit around what Councillor Jelly said, I think there's some work to do, but it is a step in the right direction. It provides us with a framework and a strategy at which we can move forward with some sort of plan, which I think is fantastic. The vegetation management's a step in the right direction. It gives us a lever to pull. It's not the be-all and end-all. It won't be the solution to everyone's problem, but I think it's showing that council is actively trying to, listen to community sentiment and what people out there want. The Surf Lifesaving Club redevelopment is absolutely crucial to that area. It is exactly what people need. The community needs to continue to get behind, the funding and the what we need to do to attract this new development. The current facility is average at best. I think there's a great opportunity for the community to really lean into that. The other thing I just want to talk about is sort of the harbour itself. We want to attract people from Portland who are launching their boats over there. I think there's a lot we can do around, in particular, that. So, I think, lots of great opportunities for us as we move forward. As Councillor Arnott touched on, it's not a short-term thing. We're talking 2040 and beyond for some of this stuff. So, again, step in the right direction.
Thanks, Mayor. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Ziegler.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm conflicted with this plan, and I hear the conflicts in the addresses by Councillor Jelly and Councillor Arnott as well. I hear that, and I hear Councillor Walsh. There are a lot of good features in the plan, and some aspirational and some very achievable and practical things. By the same token, I think there are a couple of serious omissions. While the problems of unsuitable vegetation, overgrown vegetation and seriously unsafe vegetation have been partially addressed by the concept of graduated replacement of large and invasive non-Indigenous species, the problem of fire safety has not. Right now, in one of the worst, direst forest seasons we've seen for some time, we've a foreshore covered with explosive species encroaching on vulnerable holidaymakers and residents of homes. FRV or RFV, there's some confusion there, which one it is, which acronym's right, says that they have no concerns with that. CFA calls it extremely hazardous. Past lessons tells me which opinion I believe. If or when there is a fire, how long will it take for responders to negotiate the traffic on the regularly clogged route? We have experience of one fire down there already in an off-peak period, when it took them 17 minutes to arrive to the battery origin fire. I will clear, it wasn't a vegetation origin fire, it came from internally in one of the apartments. How much longer when the road is full in both ways? The raised boardwalk is another of my concerns. It's a nice idea, providing a way to see over vegetation, but why is it needed if the vegetation is better managed? It'll be fraught with high costs, as yet unfathomable engineering problems, and likely limited life when it gets covered by shifting sands or whatever in some parts of it, and the question of disability access has not been adequately addressed. There are some fanciful but attractive ideas in the plan. I guess these are things that we would maybe like in the future, so should be included. But I believe there are much more pressing issues like seaweed control and silting, life-saving club rebuild, and gasp, the implications of a failing breakwater. I know that that is outside the scope of this foreshore plan, but it's all tied in. There is no reference to vermin and weed control anywhere in the plan. We're told without a plan the state won't consider our appeals for funding or action, that we must have a plan, but do we want an inadequate plan that could lock us into undesirable pathways? I'm told that also none of this locks us in anywhere, but if there is a plan written in our books that says this is what we want, what's the first thing that bureaucrats look at? That's a diabolical catch-22 in my book. The plan does not address the hazards which, in the case of the close vegetation for the holiday makers, include loss of life and property. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Any other Councillor Edis?
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly agree with everything that previous councillors have said. It is a conflicting report in some instances, but I think it is important that the community knows by approving this framework plan, we are committing ourselves to or including or excluding anything within the plan that may come up in the future. It's just simply a step in the process of beginning the upgrade to the foreshore to encourage the state government to speak to us. We recognise that there are many variables in the plan that still require further investigation and, more importantly, funding that we will be seeking to get. And we'll continue to speak with all stakeholders to obtain the best result. I agree with Councillor Walsh that the Surf Life Saving Club needs to be the focal point of this plan. To go down on a weekend, to see the amount of people that are there, the interaction that it has with the community, the condition of the current facility, we've got a really brilliant opportunity to make that the jewel of the foreshore and then bring it up to some first-class standards. So, and I think it's also just prudent to remember that this plan, it's going to be enacted over many years, and there's going to be many different governments, both state and federal, which will play a part in it, and we hope in a positive way. Thank you.
Councillor Edis. Councillor Benter.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, a lot's been said in the room tonight. The plan, I think it could have maybe been shaped a bit better because there is concerns in the room of it not being conveying people's thoughts and wishes to a degree. Like Councillor Jelly, the village green, sorry, it doesn't float with me. Call it, name it after somebody, after Mr Johnson, like just put it out there for that, because it adds to confusion, and we're trying to build something down there that's to reflect the whole foreshore, not the village. Surf Lifesaving Club, absolutely, should be a priority for all the government as well, not just us, in doing that. We seem to focus down there and we want to build it to be the attraction and everything else, but car parking just gets left behind every time. We built this thing, but we can't park there, we can't use it, pardon me. So it to me is a priority as far as that, and getting the functionality and the balance of that. We've also got a growth of population here, potentially to 50,000, 2040. There's another 10,000 people that are going to use that precinct. Now, they're not going to use it if they can't park there in regards to that. So a bit of emphasis there, but that's up to the councillors over the next 12 years to adjust that and work that and then get rid of the vegetation in that period as well. The raised boardwalk, yeah, I don't know if we want to, well, it's in the plan, it's only my view, but putting a raised boardwalk around the Surf Lifesaving Club where they want to maximise their viewing area from the second storey, we're going to be looking at a boardwalk, potentially hindering those views. I just don't understand that aspect of it. And also the structure itself, it's going to be a fine balance from being effective or an eyesore in my book to almost. So that's just my thoughts on that. So the yes, I guess it's a very good plan as far as the scope of what it's got in there, but it's yeah, it's got flaws and against. But we just need nurturing by the council to get it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benter. And look, I'd just like to add, and it's one thing that every councillor has pointed out, there are so many different aspects to this strategy. It's a really high-level strategy across the entire foreshore, and every single one of these elements, and whether it is the raised boardwalk, whether it is the village green, they are only at a super high level. There's been no work done when it comes to engineering, costing, scoping for any of these different parts of what this strategy is. But it does show an overall direction for what we actually want to see for our foreshore. And it shows that we do have a true strategy in what we're trying to achieve, but it is something that can continue to be adapted as we move forward. And there are elements to it which have been challenging, and it was something that was brought up during the consultation, was the car parking down at the foreshore and the ability to be able to have more parking down there. And it was something that was a challenge with the landholder in that respect, because there was a belief there, there is a belief there that there isn't the need for more parking. But that was part of the consultation that come back in the feedback from the landholder. And just remembering too, when we're looking at emergency services and we're talking about fire down at the foreshore, that is, that isn't really, that's something we're trying to address with what the foreshore management is. But even if what you're talking about, Councillor Ziegler, was actually in this strategy, it wouldn't happen tomorrow. This is a totally operational issue and is something that Council is currently working on to try and address, and we're trying to do it through the proper channels, gaining MACA consent. But I do think this framework plan does look good. It does give us a direction. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to add anything to close?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, I will. I also want to stress that this is a strategic document, that not everything in this document is going to be built or realised at the end of it. It's nearly fluid, it will change. And just to note that the 6 key moves captured from community feedback, right? The 6 key moves: the vegetation management, the Surf Lifesaving Club redevelopment, the village green development, the elevated boardwalk system, a sea bath construction, a harbour precinct redevelopment. Now, we notice that the ocean pool concept has been removed in response from both Eastern Mar and Deaker. So these ideas aren't just plucked from thin air, they have come back from the community. And keep in mind that it is a strategic document, so along the way things will change with further community input and of course a lot of money. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Arnott. We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Benter, Councillor Edis, Councillor Arnott, Councillor Jelly, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Blaine. All those against? Councillor Ziegler. The motion is carried 6-1. We'll now move on to page 12, item 7.2, the Green Warrnambool Strategy 2024 update. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. This report provides an update on implementation of the Green Warrnambool Strategy, which was developed or adopted in 2018. The report notes some really good progress in a number of areas, but also obviously more work to be done in other areas. So the recommendation is that council notes the progress of the plan.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Were there any questions on this one? Do we have a mover? Councillor Edis.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the green strategy, I suppose.
Oh, no, sorry, the motion.
Sorry. I move that council notes the progress of the implementation of the Green Warrnambool Strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Edis. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Edis. Now go for it.
Apologies. So, yeah, I think it's important that we do have a green Warrnambool strategy comprising of the headings that we're following: zero, adaptable, wise, natural, blue and green. I think it outlines how we are going to achieve our vision. Again, like we just discussed with the foreshore, we have to have a plan. We have to have targets that we're going to aim to meet to become a sustainable city by 2040, as we aim to do. So I think it's a comprehensive plan. It gives us some indicators on where we are, what the tasks are, where we are at the moment, where we'd like to be in a time frame. So on that basis, I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Edis. Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, I think the Green Warrnambool strategy is overall very good. It's got some great aspects, some very practical aspects that council itself is addressing, like purchasing electricity from renewable energy sources. Its fleet vehicles are being changed over to mostly hybrid vehicles, EV charging stations being installed, and we're actually addressing things like perhaps community batteries and so forth in the future. That kind of stuff is critical for a green strategy. This goes a long way to addressing a lot of the very important things that we must look at in terms of providing a Warrnambool that's still livable for our future generations. I think it goes a long way for that sort of stuff.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Jelly.
Yes, this is great to get an update on this because it's progressed over years and has got further to go. I see that there's a goal to have 30% of Warrnambool urban area to have vegetation canopy cover by 2040. So we're estimated that by 2026, next year, we'll have 10% achieved. So we've still got a way to go, but we're working on it. And very interesting, and which was good to hear, that over 50% of fresh produce consumed in Warrnambool is sourced locally from backyards, the community garden, farmers markets that we have down at the foreshore, local producers and businesses. There's much happening in the area, especially if you've been over to Archie Graham and seen the food cubes that they've got over there with the vegetables growing, and the food swap that they have, the food exchange. Warrnambool Community Garden is a great entity in our town, and they do some great things there all the time with volunteers and every week. So great businesses and that. So great, 50% of fresh produce consumed in Warrnambool is sourced locally. So we can probably improve, but it's a really good start.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Councillor Arnott.
Yes, another positive out of all of that work that's come to us is that 90% of Warrnambool's biodiversity corridors are now planted. Now, that's such a boon for our native flora and fauna habitat. And since 2018, 39,516 trees have been planted, and the goal for the 2026 is 120,000. And I know that's a lot of trees in a short space of time, but we're well on the way It's very positive, and as a gardener, I say everyone get out there and start planting. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Arnott. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Reedish, do you wish you had anything to close?
No, Mayor.
We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 7.3, page 17, the promotional roundabout banner policy review. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. The promotional roundabout banner policy is an existing policy. It's been reviewed by officers with some relatively minor updates or improvements and changes. So the amended policy is before council for adoption.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Are there any questions on this item? Do we have a mover? Councillor Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor. I wish to move the item as noted by the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. Roundabouts and Warrnambool, they're synonymous with each other, so I think it's great that we obviously have a policy such as this, and interesting to read that we've gone from 10 to 7. So I think that, maybe that roundabout conversation might disappear as we start to move. But, these policies are critical to making sure that, expectations are met and the things that we're doing are understood. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Arnott.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have obviously tourists and year-round visitation. I think these are a great advertising tool. Council will make sure that any banners displayed coincide with maybe that events are being held. Happy to support this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Any other councillor wish to speak? And it is looking good, as Councillor Walsh has said, that yes, we've gone down from previously there was 10, now we're down to 7. So, and some of the conclusions it's pretty common sense. What kind of advertising we can have and how long the banners and everything can be up. So no, it's good to have clear guidelines. Councillor Walsh, do you wish to add anything to close?
Nothing additional. Thanks, Mayor.
We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Now move on to item 7.4, the S5 instrument of delegation. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the Local Government Act, the council can delegate functions and powers to the Chief Executive Officer. This is necessary for the day-to-day running of the council. Whilst this could be seen as a procedural matter, it is really important from a legal perspective. There is a 4-part recommendation before you.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Were there any questions on this item? Do we have a mover? Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, Mayor, I'll move that the officer's recommendations are as printed in the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Benter. Councillor Ziegler.
No, I think that Mr Mason has adequately covered it. It is a procedural matter, but it's also a very strong legal matter. It needs to be done, and by doing this, passing this motion, we'll cover tick all the I's.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Benter.
No, yes, the CEO has commented on what it's for, and it's to get a housekeeping and structure for who's allowed to do and not allowed to do to a degree. So to look after the community's purse, it may say.
Thank you, Councillor Benter. Do we have any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Arnott.
I'll just add in there, just for anyone who's not aware of the agenda, that the CEO's financial delegation remains unchanged at the amount of 400,000, excluding GST. There are exceptions to this amount for specific instances contained within the delegation, and such as the payment of insurance premiums. So I just wanted to have that on record. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to add anything to close?
No, thank you, Mayor.
I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Now move on to item 7.5, the S11A Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation. Mr Mason.
Mayor, this is similar to the previous report, but some of the functions under the Planning and Environment Act need to be directly delegated from council to qualified planning staff. So this report effectively sets that process in place.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Were there any questions on this one? Do we have a mover? Councillor Edis.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the officer's recommendation be accepted.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Walsh. Councillor Edis.
Thank you, Mayor. This motion, again, is could be seen as a little bit of housekeeping. We're simply moving to update an existing instrument from this time last year to ensure that all the officers that are authorised under the Planning and Environment Act have the correct authorisation to complete their jobs. We certainly don't want a situation whether an officer be entering a site, gathering evidence, serving legal notices, where that's challenged or invalidated because we don't have the correct people. And as staff come and go and get added to different roles within council, it's always necessary to update those people. So that's why I'll support it.
Thank you, Councillor Edis. Councillor Walsh.
Nothing further from me, Mayor. Councillor Edis has covered it off perfectly.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 7.6, the quarterly financial report, October to December 2024, page 25. Mr Mason.
Thank you. This report presents quarterly finance report to the end of December, as you've correctly identified. The report shows that council remains in a healthy financial position. There are obviously some variations, which is to be expected, but the variations from our final position are largely related to timing or project delivery. So we're very confident and comfortable where we are financially.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Were there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Arnott.
I'd like to move that the quarterly financial report, October to December 2024 be received.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Arnott.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, as our CEO said, I'm confident that council remains in a financially sound position. The forecast was being prepared and updated to December, resulting in a full year cash deficit of about 200,000 That is likely to change as we move along. And I'd just like to make note that the report recommends a reallocation from the 24-25 budget for the Walter Oval Club Rooms project to the Friendly Societies Park project and include an allocation for the Walter Oval Club Rooms project in the 25-26 budget. As well, that I just wanted to make note too, the claw money ticket sales. The art gallery is forecasting to break even on those special exhibitions, and I think that's a really good thing. So that's all I have to say about the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott.
Financial report. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Councillor Arnott is way more qualified than I am to comment on the quality of the quarterly financial report, but I'm pleased to note that we're in a sound financial position. I'd like to offer my thanks and congratulations to the staff who actually prepared an excellent report.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Any other councillor wish to speak? Very good, Councillor Arnott. You don't wish to add anything close?
I don't think so. Thank you, Mayor.
We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to item 7.7, the ALGA and MAV motions, page 27. Mr Mason.
Mayor, this report recommends that council submit a number of motions to the Australian Local Government General Assembly and the MAV State Council meeting. By doing so, this provides an opportunity for us to get some important and topical issues onto the state and national stage. If they were supported, it would also mean that we're getting support from important peak organisations for some issues that are of importance to Warrnambool, but definitely other rural and regional communities. So the recommendation is before you in two parts.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Are there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the recommendation as noted within the agenda in both those parts.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to highlight in particular the Municipal Association of Victoria motions, given their focus being around sea level rise, a consistent approach, an agreed approach to that. Some scheme amendments, pathways around flooding, and also flood mitigation works. I think there's three really key motions that are really playing a big part in our community at the moment with the stuff that's happening around South Warrnambool and also the upcoming Allansford one. So really crucial that we get those onto the, in front of the eyes of the people that can help make the decisions and impact and also fund some of the stuff that needs to happen around that. So fantastic work in getting those motions prepared and looking forward to getting them presented in May.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Arnott.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is an important time for local councils to actually get some issues before the national stage, actually, and I think the motions that we've put forward and managed to pull together are very pertinent to not just our community but many communities around Australia. So I would be really hopeful that we can gain some support here, and if we can, very interested to see, with some of the energy things that are happening around, that maybe we can get some dollars come back to our own community, as Councillor Walsh has alluded to with the flood mitigation works. That would be great to get something, a clear and concise direction about sea level rise. Well done to the staff who pulled these motions together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Any other councillor wish to speak? And I'd just like to add, it is really critical for Warrnambool that we do, we are making sure that, our voice is heard, and these are really pertinent issues for Warrnambool across, we're seeing all these things going through all the flood issues that we're going to have coming to this meeting in the very near future, and it'd be great to actually have, as Councillor Arnott and Councillor Walsh said, consistent advice on what sea level rises are going to be. But then, because we're moving in and doing these studies as well, being able to have mitigation methods and funding levers available to us, it's really, really key. And the Australian Local Government Association General Assembly as well, trying to ensure with the renewables across the region that, there is defined community benefits, and ensuring that there is training and opportunities here for workers to be able to, work and train and maintain what we have across the region. So, Councillor Walsh, do you wish to add anything to close?
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 7.8, planning application 137 Caraville Drive, page 36. Mr Mason.
Thanks, Mayor. This report relates to a planning application that seeks to amend an existing planning permit that will allow 8 additional units to be constructed. These units will have access off Baker Grove. 8 objections have been received in relation to the planning application. As the report notes, many of the issues raised in the objections relate to concerns with the existing operation of the retirement village. This is a situation where we need to separate these two issues. So that the matter before council is the planning application for the units of Baker Grove, and that needs to be considered as a standalone issue. Officers have recommended approval of the 8 units, given there is compliance with the planning assessment tools in the planning scheme, and strong strategy and policy support in relation to additional housing and diversity of housing. So the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Were there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Jelly?
Thank you, Mayor. I move the motion to accept the officer's recommendation for this particular planning application.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Edis. Councillor Jelly?
Thank you, Mayor. As we have before us, there were 8 objections received, which were generally related to parking and traffic management within Carrollville Drive. As the CEO has indicated, what this application is for is 2 separate issues in relation to the whole application. There's 8 single-storey, 2-bedroom units, single-car garage and additional car parking that is appropriate for the visitors. There will be no vehicle access from these units into Carrollville Drive. They will only enter and exit from Baker Grove. I drove out there the other day and had a look, and it's quite apparent you cannot get a car into come through to Carrollville Drive. There will be a footpath for people to walk, and there's a great walking already designated path beside the property already. It's retirement type accommodation. It has changed to what it was set up for many years ago. It provides appropriate increased options for older people to reside in. And by downsizing, this in turn create what these people might be living in the community, 3 or 4 bedroom house. And so by them moving into something smaller and appropriate for them, it has increased availability of larger homes in the city for families, and that's something we're really missing. This fits within the municipal planning strategy, which supports increased housing choice, diversity and affordability. And this will be in a different bracket of affordability for people. So it's great to have a variety of people that could live there. I acknowledge that there were concerns first brought forward by some of the residents of Carrollville Drive. The proponents, Ingenia Communities, have responded to the Carrollville Drive residents' concerns and have implemented appropriate changes to remedy the issues. So that's for the management of that facility there to work through with those residents down the end of Carrollville Drive, and I know that they have are acting responsibly and working through those issues there. Yes, there will still be deliveries there. They have to come. I don't think that the 8 units that exit on Barker Grove will make any difference to any deliveries there. If a delivery truck is coming and they've got to cater for something that the other 8 units want, it's not that much more. It's not going to be another 2 trucks coming. So I think that will be coordinated again by Ingenia. And my understanding is the 2-bedroom units that will exit off Baker Grove will be independent. They've got their own kitchen and 2 bedrooms, so they'll be independent living units for people. In a time of housing shortage and homelessness, I think this proposal is a welcome project and will especially assist our older community and residents to live in appropriate accommodation. The planning application supports social connection, equitable access, and that's very important, equitable access, and appropriate housing which will assist sustainable population growth for the city.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Councillor Edis.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Jelly has said that wonderfully.
I reckon you got well, yeah.
So the point I'd like to make is that, the objections, we have heard that the residents' concerns, and we would certainly hope that the facility operators have heard those and would take some steps to appease their neighbours, and whether that be with council or some local laws, just patrolling as well, just to ensure that the facility operators are holding up their end of the bargain. But yes, I fully support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Edis. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, I paid particular attention to the objections we received and the fact that Ingenia Gardens has talked about trying to ameliorate their concerns. I have some professional experience at Carrollville Drive in terms of having to visit various residents there at times, and I know just how incredibly difficult it is to get a park anywhere near it. So I modify my own behaviour by parking further away. I understand that deliveries happen straight through the front of Caraville Drive into the place. I think that the extra 8 units is going to exacerbate the problems, shift the problems to the residents of Baker Drive, so that the residents of Caraville Drive are not only going to have an increased imposition on their amenity, but also the non-existent amenity impositions on Baker Grove will be shifted over there, so that they will have problems with their parking and extra cars in Baker Grove. So I don't think that it should be supported at all. I do acknowledge the fact that we need the extra housing, and it'll be an added fillip to aged care and disability housing, but I think that imposition on the current residents is just too much.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Benter.
Thank you, Mayor Lane. Yeah, there's fors and againsts. Councillor Jelly and Councillor Ziegler have commented on both directions. I myself have been there several times. I've seen the confusion of car parking. I've seen many come and go while I've been there for a couple of hours over a period of several days. Just talking to the adjacent property owners as well. I understand it's not Caraville Drive that we're talking about, it's Baker Grove. But the issues are going to get pushed to Baker Grove in relation to that with the parking aspect. The concept of that facility has changed over time. So there's on-call nurses turning up, there's senior healthcare providers turning up, coming and going as well. The parking is an issue. So effectively they may end up getting moved to Baker Grove and it will actually impact their deliveries in Baker Grove as well. The waste management, 8 extra bins out on Baker Grove for the community too, as far as in that area. The lack of parking, maintenance vehicles, the lawnmower guy's got to park in the street while he's attending to the whole place. In regards to that, I understand it met the planning then, but the company could have added features into this new development to try offsetting that with parking spaces for that, other than just visitor parking. My concern is that this goes through, we're end up moving one problem from one spot to another spot without actually learning properly and adjusting the, I know it meets the guidelines, but as far as the impact and the amenity of Baker Grove, it's going to be a negative for them in regards to that. So,
Thank you, Councillor Benter. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what everyone needs to remember here, we are not actually considering the already existing development that fronts Caraville Drive. Before us is a document that we have to consider the entry and exit off Baker Grove. We're talking about 8 units, single-storey units that have a single car park, and then we were talking about 2 extra car parks available for visitor space, or as Councillor Bender has said, you know, why couldn't maybe the lawnmower man park there? I think the advantages of this type of development far outweigh any concession that the residents in Baker Grove may have to make, keeping in mind that these units are independent living. If they weren't independent living, or if they didn't have a car, there's actually even more space there. So I think, you know, there is going to be pedestrian access that will be formalised throughout the areas of the landscaping. Really and truly, these 8 additional units will not affect any of the services that are provided or anyone that is coming or going from Caraville Drive. Yes, there will be some impact in Baker Grove, but I feel it will be very minimal. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things that I want to call out. I've also struggled a little bit with this one. I think there's some really valid points made by the residents when we did speak to them, the residents of Caraval Drive. And it can sometimes be hard to separate the Caraval Drive issue from, the issue at play. I think the officers responsible for preparing this, in particular some of those new conditions, will go a long way to address some possible issues that are happening in Caraval Drive, happening within Baker Grove. I think there's some great steps that have been made in terms of that.
Oh, that was, sorry. Thank you.
I thought there was more, but there's not. Sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Walsh. Thank you, Councillor Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor.
You've just thrown me now. Sorry. No, thank you for that, Councillor Walsh. And I think, the key here is, and it's a challenge with planning applications, and there are other things going on around there, and there are existing developments. In planning, it's hard because you've got to look at what's actually in front of you. And effectively, as Councillor Arnott's outlined, we are looking at a development for 8, single-bedroom units with 10 car parks. And, it really does. It'll add to the diversity of Baker Grove as that comes on and off there. I don't think it's overdeveloped. I don't think it's too dense. And I actually think it'll be a really nice addition to what is up at the street. And a lot of the issues that were raised from the Caraval Drive end about deliveries and things with the current operations, they're not going to be mirrored over here. This is going to be, some of the most vulnerable in our community living out, the autumn years of their life. Councillor Jelly, do you want to wish to add anything to close?
Yes, we've all got different views on this. Councillor Walsh is correct in saying that there's some conditions put in there that must be adhered to, so that's really good. I think our staff have worked hard on this planning. Ingenia have worked hard to try and work with the community. I don't think what's been said to make Baker Grove into an issue, I don't think that is going to be an issue, because Ingenia will also be aware of that. Those 8 units are independent living units, whereas in the Ingenia part at Caraval Drive exit they're a smaller 1-bedroom, very tiny little 1-bedroom self-contained apartments. Some of the people in there probably need extra care and do have people coming and going from there. I can't see that it's going to push anything over to Baker Grove. Yes, there will be bins that will be coordinated. The provision of adequate parking there has been put into the plan, and I think it's great for us to support people, especially people that might move out of their larger home in the city and have a great, end of life there for many years, I hope, for them, and enjoy that with the company of others close by. So I think it's a great project.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Jelly, Councillor Blaine, Councillor Arnott and Councillor Edis. All those against, Councillor Benter and Councillor Ziegler. The motion is passed 5-2. We'll now move on to item 7.9, the upcoming 2024-2025 large-scale procurement under the civil panel, page 45. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. This is largely a procedural issue, but an important one. The report is seeking approval to engage a contractor from our panel to complete the Croyd Street Rehabilitation Project. This report is necessary because the expenditure is beyond or above my financial delegation of $400,000.
Thank you, Mr Mason. That's something we did earlier this evening. Sorry. Do we have any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, Mayor, I'll move that the officer's recommendation to delegate authority to the CEO for that particular contract be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Edis. Councillor Ziegler.
No, I think this is, again, a very sensible procedural item that needs to happen in order to have the Croyd Street Road Rehabilitation Project finished properly.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Edis, did you have anything to add?
No, Mayor.
Any other councillor wish to speak? We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? This is passed unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.10, the informal meetings of council. So you'll see the informal meetings there from the 9th of December, the 16th of December, the 20th and the 28th of Jan. I do have one alteration to make, and that is on the record of the 20th of January, that Councillor Ziegler declared a conflict on the South Warrnambool flood study. That's why he left the meeting. Yeah. So do we have a mover for that with that amendment? Councillor Arnott?
I'll move that the records of the informal meetings of council held on 9/16 December 24 and the 28 January 25 be received.
With that amendment.
With the amendment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Walsh. No other questions or issues? We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. We'll now go to item 7.11, the Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Activity Summary Report. The summary is there for everyone to see. Were there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Arnott. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Edis. Councillor Arnott.
That the Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council Activities Summary Report be received.
Thank you. And sorry, I did that the wrong way. And did you have anything to add?
No, thank you.
Councillor Edis? No. We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 8, notices of motion. There are no notices of motion.
None, Mayor.
Item 9, general business. Did anyone have any general business they wanted to raise this evening? Thank you. Item 10, there is no urgent business. We'll now move on to item 11, the close of the meeting at 6:51. Thank you everyone for attending. First meeting for the year.